Hi, I'm so happy that we are here together. I'm going to do a quick exploration of Tadasana mountain pose and just explore why it's a great template pose for all the other poses. We'll go into that, its anatomical position. If you have two blocks and you're going to do it with me, you may want those two blocks. You also might like a chair. Okay. All right. I'm going to change my camera and go onto my mats. There it is. And so Tadasana mountain pose, such a wonderful posture because it is so efficient for the body, physically and energetically. It's also anatomical position. So in any kind of healing modality and in any kind of health profession, right? We start with like basic, physical anatomy. And so anatomical position, we're in ideally neutral leg bones, right? There is some external rotation in the arms that we'll talk about, but we're in neutral spine, right? So our spinal curves are in their natural curves, low back curve, upper back curve, neck curve, right? And if you are to kind of trail from the ground up, the heels, the knees, the hips, the shoulders, and the ears are all in one line, right? And so this kind of very efficient way of being in the body, it's great for the breath. There's enough room for the diaphragm. There's enough room for the internal organs, right? You're on this north-south or south-north axis, right? Axis. So, digestion works better. So it's just like a great kind of position that is efficient on your energy, physical energy, and also pranic energy, right? You're pressing into the earth and it's like you're pulling up all the way up through the crown of the head into the subtle realm, right? So I call it earth to sky. And so this is where our pranic energy is also circulating in a really easeful and efficient way. And when we're dealing with or looking at asana, other yoga poses, one of the reasons many of us say, okay, this is the template, is because we can see what's working efficiently, what's the same, and what's different, right? So if we understand what's happening in Tadasana, which we'll go through in a moment, then we start to see what's happening in other postures. It's it reminds me a little bit of like, kind of like preschool, right? What's the same and what's different? Where are we symmetrical and where are we asymmetrical, right? Where are we neutral and where are we rotated? So in that same way, as we look at Tadasana, right? We start from the ground up, we start from the feet, and we just start to look, are the feet evenly rooted, right? With the feet evenly rooted, is their weight shifted forward, which will start put tension in the knees. It starts to change the whole structure. Is the weight back into the heels? Changes the whole structure, right? Suddenly there's tension. I'm using more energy to hold my body up. It's not as efficient as right in the center, right? Right in the lift in the center. Same weight in the feet. If I'm rolling out to the sides, which is called supination, right? Suddenly it's going to throw off all different aspects of the body and it takes a lot more energy to hold. Pronation, I'm pressing in, right? My knees start to kind of cross in, right? Everything changes, right? Seeing that from the side, supination, right? Pronation, it starts to work its way up from the ground up. So working from this balanced, even position, right? Big toe mound, pinky toe mound, inner outer heel, and having the arches of the feet, the medial on the inside, the lateral on the outside, and the transverse that lift from the center as we move all the way up. Again, heels, knees, hips, shoulders, ears, right? All those kind of areas of attention. And as we work from the feet up, we help stabilize and keep the knees neutral and healthy, right? It's easier to hold the weight there versus some weight on the outside, which can strain the knee, right? And working all the way up. The next notable is the leg bones in the hip socket, right? So here in Tadasana, we have neutral legs, meaning they're not externally rotated out or internally rotated in. They're neutral. And that the neutral legs helps lift the pelvis to also be upright and neutral. All right. And this is a really interesting and important area right here, because if the pelvis is tilted forward, anteriorly tilted, right, it changes the spinal column. It changes, right, how the organs are sitting in the belly, how you're breathing, your neck, how you're thinking. It changes everything, and it changes the prana. Same if you have a posterior tilt and the tailbone is tucking and the sitting bones are tucking. Same thing, we flatten the low back curve. In fact, it made my upper back curve kind of really sit out in a deeper kyphosis. My head jutted forward. Gosh, I feel really dodgy already. So we want to lift up into neutral. In the same, and that anterior and posterior is considered in the sagittal plane. Sagittal plane. Just for you to become aware of a plane, you know, maybe you already know, but just it's a way for us to communicate. In the coronal plane, right, is the hip lifted? Is it depressed? Right? And this is hard, right? So if something is imbalanced, the body's imbalanced in this way, we can see it. Oh, okay. We can bring the pelvis towards neutral, and then everything's balanced again. It has ease. Okay. So the coronal plane. Transverse, we're twisting, right? Oh, here, oh, it's very different on my back. If I show you the other, oh, right, hey, right? Very different. So we're looking from the feet to the thigh bones to the pelvis, creating neutrality here and stability so we can support the internal organs. Super important, supporting the breath, right? And then support the lift of this beautiful ball on the top of the shoulders, the head, and the brain. And energetically, you feel grounded into the earth and fully awake and inspired, right? I'm grounded, I'm stable, yet I'm spacious, and I'm awake, right? So all of this working in Tadasana, mountain pose. Now, I just want to pause for a second. I have my chair over here. I like to call this a proper seat. It's not proper like you're having tea, right? But it's the same thing. When you're seated, yes, your feet, for many of the seated postures here, my feet are on the floor, but I'm looking for my sitting bones, the bottom of the pelvis, my ischial tuberosities. I am bringing them even, so I'm neutral here, right? And this happens to a lot of friends, me included, especially if I'm like, okay, I like the Warriors, the basketball team. So I sit down and watch the Warriors. I'm not going to sit up on my sofa like this. I'm usually going to tuck my tailbone and go like this with the remote, right? Or my cup of tea. So I'm not saying that it can't be comfortable for a little while, but it is dulling. It can hurt the body. And so when we're talking in our yoga practice, we want ideally our students to know how to sit in a proper seat right on the sitting bones, pelvis towards neutral in all three planes, and the spinal curves and their natural curves, right, all the way up. And in that same way, right, when we go back to Tadasana, it's the same alignment. All right. I just feel like in the energetics, it's super important to know that, you know, our eyes see it. I'm going to put money down. Your eyes see it, but maybe you're just not used to looking at it, right? But what is the same and what's different? If someone's turned out like this, the hips, there is an emotional quality to this physicality. I immediately feel duller. My body feels a little hurt. You know, if I walk to you like this, there's a quality to that, right? Versus, right, if I'm fully aligned and I'm steady and I'm ready, right? I'm steady and I'm spacious, and then I come to you. So there's a lot of power just in understanding the physicality of Tadasana, but also the mental, emotional, and pranic qualities of Tadasana, and how we bring that, yes, into our asana practice, but also into every aspect of our life, right? You know, how to connect with someone else in this open, symmetrical, and balanced way. It's a wonderful healing practice on all the levels. So I hope, and there's probably a lot more to say about it. And maybe we can nerd out on Tadasana together in the future. But I'm going to leave that for now. Hope that was at least fun, if not helpful. I'm going to change my camera. And I appreciate you. And that's it.